All right, cool. I think we're live. Welcome everybody to another live stream where I'm going to sculpt something from scratch here. We're going to make a monster from the D&D universe for part of my VoidRealm Minis line. If you're unfamiliar with VoidRealm Minis, I make a lot of 3D printable cosmic horror and all sorts of other monsters for your tabletop. I sent out a quick poll to my patrons last night, and they decided that today we're going to sculpt a flump, which is a classic D&D flying jellyfish type creature. If there are any problems with the audio or the setup as you're tuning in, please let me know. I've also got the chat window open here in virtual reality, so you can live chat with me and I'll try to answer your questions. If anybody has specific questions about the techniques that I'm using or just want to know more about the brand or anything at all, feel free to ask, and I'll check in on the chat window every once in a while. I always like to start these by giving a slight tutorial of what's going on in case this is the first time you're seeing one of these. Basically, I have this software open called Medium by Adobe, and it lets me sculpt in virtual reality. So instead of sitting at a screen and working on that two-dimensional surface, I have the chance to actually draw out clay and manipulate it kind of in three-dimensional space, much more like how you would experience sculpting in real life. So I'm going to use this format. This is how I do most of my sculpting these days, and we will build a flump from scratch. I have a couple of images here, so if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, this is like the classic flump. So sort of flying jellyfish, disc body, couple of eye stalks, some tendrils. Not too much human anatomy to get bogged down by, so this should be a pretty fun sculpt and should go pretty quickly. Alright, without further ado, I'm going to turn up the music a little bit and get started here. Alright, here we go. And again, if you have questions while I am starting to build this or not sure what's going on, please just ask. Sometimes I get a little quiet if I start getting in the zone, but I'll try my best to answer any questions you guys have. So the first thing I was noticing when I was reading a bit about these guys is that they're pretty small. And if we're going to print this, if we're going to make this sculpt 3D printable at a 32mm scale, it's going to be pretty tiny. Like this, the central body that we're going to make is only going to be about, I think, 10mm wide. So with that in mind, I don't want to make, the tendrils and stuff too tiny. 3D printers can do amazing stuff these days with really small parts, but when you're painting a miniature, and as I'm designing it and thinking about people printing and painting it, I'm sort of wanting to keep a handle on, what's going to be fun to paint, what's going to be enjoyable at that scale, and not get too microscopic with the details. So I just squirted out some clay, and now I'm using the move tool to start to get like a sense of form for this central body, kind of doming it a little bit. Maybe I'll switch brushes here to the cube brush and just kind of draw around the perimeter. And then smooth this out. Another thing I can do is, instead of adding clay, I can take clay away, so I can subtract, kind of carve into the surface. Cool, we'll take a new layer, and now I'll get the eye stalks in place. I'm going to turn off, I had mirror mode on so that everything was symmetrical to start, but for these eye stalks I'm going to just kind of draw them out in space. Maybe that way, and I might do this a couple of times. I have the chance, I could just flick the joystick here and undo my strokes or redo them. So I liked the first one that I threw out, didn't really like the second one, so try that again. There we go, maybe something like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and pass over these again to sort of thicken them up and give them a little bit of volume. And just a little bit of variety in the form. Again, thinking about printing at that small scale, I'd like to make sure these are a little bit thicker, these eye stalks, especially at the base. Because, you know, in real life it's going to be super, super tiny, like this small. So definitely need to keep that in mind as we're working, and I can maybe... Keeping these on separate layers helps me work on each piece individually and kind of reposition things on the fly as I go. So new layer here, this will be the eyeball. Again, we'll make it pretty big and I'll duplicate that. Give us that eyeball. And then we'll enclose those in some lids. And I didn't do any kind of sketch or anything before. I mean, this is a pretty simple monster, but I tend to not sketch very often. If I do, they're pretty crude sketches. I like to design in 3D with this software. It can be a lot of fun to really quickly generate forms and mess with the composition and pull stuff around. So I like to do that. So, you know, just a small example of this is... I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the eyelids, but I kind of like this droopy effect. It's kind of one of the staples in my sculpts that I like to go for. So I'm gonna continue that and sort of pull it into the eye stalk itself. Do one more new layer and pull this upper lid around. Okay, so for this, I'm going to go ahead and increase the resolution. This will just help keep some of these details while I smooth it out. And then take this, and I'm going to copy and flip it. Save me a little bit of time here, and then pull this one up just a little bit into position. Alright, so maybe now that I've added some form, I'm gonna make the body a little bit bigger. So I blended some of these layers together, but I'm still keeping the actual eyeball separate. We'll only merge that together at the very, very end. Once again, if anybody's tuning in and has any questions or anything, you can leave a comment in the chat here. You can also, if you're watching this later, just leave a comment below, and I'll check on it and happy to answer anything. So I'm gonna merge these layers together now. And I'm thinking I actually want to be able to reposition each eye stalk separately. I had built them on the same layer, so I'm gonna do a little quick trick here in medium to separate them. So I'm gonna, yeah, put that upper lid also. So if I isolate, this is the layer I've got by itself, and I want to separate those. So I'm going to duplicate the layer so that I've got a copy of it, and on one of those layers I'm going to delete one of them, and then on the other layer I'm going to delete the other eye stalk, and now I've got two separate eye stalks. So let's grab them and pull them out just a little bit wider and make room for that central hole, which looks like in all the drawings people make it like this cute mouth, but I was reading the description and it seems like the small circular hole that they have at the center of their top side kind of really helps them with air intake and helps them to fly and stuff, I think. So I'm gonna try to maybe do something here that captures that and doesn't quite look so obviously like a mouth. But at the same time, you know, should give you that sort of impression. And I like, you know, this kind of moment. I'm not working in symmetry right now. I'm pushing out this hole. It's going to feel very organic, I guess, is a good word for it. I'm just kind of curling the top there to give it a little bit of a lip. This is something I might come back and emphasize more later. I'm just giving it a shot and seeing what I think of that. Again, another exciting thing about this workflow working in VR is that a lot of these movements are coming from my shoulder and moving through space a lot. So when I work on the tablet, which I also do, I also work in ZBrush, I'll be on the tablet drawing this way only in the X and Y plane. But here, as I make these moves, I can really take this and pull it way around and kind of curl the thing and make these crazy movements. We're not going to use that one, but have that potential, which is pretty cool. Something I definitely don't get tired of. So there we go. How about a little bit of texture on the body now? So let's swoop. I'm going to swoop some of these curves in with the cube brush. My goal will be to kind of do that, you can see, and then I'll smooth them out. Just for a little bit of variety, maybe. Maybe not even that much. There we go, something like that. Cool, I'm just checking in, making sure I've got everything set up right. And I think I'm kind of getting away from the flat saucer, which is sort of the classic flump shape, so I may come back in and compress this again. We're going to take a look once I smooth out these details. Yeah, so I'm going to play with a move, just making this more of a saucer shape. Cool, let's add some tentacles. Switch gears. I'm going to keep the sphere brush for this one, and I'm going to keep most of them on separate layers. Maybe we'll go for a dozen or so. You know what, actually, so one thing I'm going to do here real quick is add a ground plane so that I keep these guys landing in the same place. So this will just be for my reference. I'm going to kind of position it so that you know, I can keep everything flat, or we might have him flying a little bit. We'll see what these tentacles end up looking like. Just a little setup here, making sure the resolution is correct. Taking a look at that shape, and if I like it, yeah, I like the thickness of that, so let's knock some of these out. I'm putting each one of these on a new layer. And maybe a couple of these are sort of gesturing out to the side. Again, just looking at the relationship constantly between all the different forms. In this case, I'm looking at the body and the eye stalks against the tentacles and kind of wanting to pull them up a bit. So if we look at, I had it that small and I'm just making a tiny adjustment. So what I'll do, I won't do this in the stream, but I'm gonna eventually come in here and really look in the details. You can see there's a couple of, like, there's a thin gap. You can see the green of my cursor between these two tentacles, and we're printing at such a small scale that I'm gonna fill that in because it's just unnecessary. So those will be adjustments and things that I'm looking at later as I get this guy refined. Cool, and then let's add a little bit. He's got some spikes on his underbelly too, so we're gonna stay true to that, and I will grab a new brush here. Maybe this guy. I'm gonna start it separately. This is like an arrow shape. So we can use that as a spike. I'll copy this and then move it underneath. And then modify it a little bit. You know, maybe I'll show you guys. I'm gonna give this a different color. This will help pick these out. We'll use like a light blue. So I'm looking in the cracks here and just positioning a couple of these along his underbelly, or her underbelly. Maybe it should be a female. I don't even know if flumps have genders, to be honest. Okay, great. And I'll also give this top just a bit of color. So this is where we're at right now. This is definitely one that you would probably just put on a base instead of showing it flying. One thing I can do is pretty quickly I can duplicate this top part, move it over here, and then maybe take a couple of these stalks that I like, duplicate them, and I'll do a quick repositioning, see if we can probably draw a couple new stalks, but also kind of create one that's maybe more in flight. Just using these same shapes. Maybe flip that one. So for this pose, I'm gonna leave a gap underneath for a rod in case people want to print him and mount him so that he is actually hovering. So that's pretty cool. Let's grab one more tentacle and fill in this side area. Okay, nice. And for this one, I'm gonna go into the underbelly here, and I am going to go ahead and punch in a hole. Actually, add some mass first. Just so that it's got a spot to slot a rod into. I can size that later and get really specific with it if I want to, but that should do for now. Okay, so we've got these two poses. A couple of things I'm thinking about right now. Number one, do I want to detail the tentacles at all? Number two, I need to add some spikes to the second pose over here. So I will do that really quickly while I'm talking. And then I thought, I'll check the time. What time is it? Yeah, 11:30. Okay, good. This is going pretty quickly since this is kind of a simple creature. So I thought it would be fun maybe to take the flump, which is a friendly critter in the D&D metaverse, and go ahead and infect it with some sort of eldritch horror, demon possession thing and maybe create like an infected or corrupted version of the flump. So let's do that right now real quick and see what we can blast out in the next 20 or 30 minutes. Alright, so for this one I'm going to take the flying pose here. I'm going to grab every layer. It's going to take me just a quick minute and I'm going to duplicate everything. And I'm also going to merge everything. So in a second, these lines will start to go away. Perfect. So this will be our dummy model that we'll add the Eldritch infection to. I'm also going to go ahead and save this real quick so that I don't lose any of my work. Medium can crash sometimes a bit more erratically than ZBrush or other software, so... And it does not have an autosave yet. Alright. So for this, I wanted to take... I had pulled up a face. Where is that guy? Here he is. So I'm going to use this. I had loaded this earlier, and I don't know. We're going to mess with it and kind of see what happens. And make some sort of Eldritch thing. Let's grab this brush. Alright. This is where things start to get kind of weird with the VoidRealm mini stuff. I'm just gonna experiment here and kind of see what happens. I really have no idea where this is gonna go. So working really quickly here again to just get something down, get it onto the flump. Try to make something a little different, a little weird. Right now I'm filling in this space behind the teeth just so that when you 3D print it again, it's not necessary to have all those those gaps. All right, where's our guy? So take this over here. Yeah. So we're going to work on popping this head out of the central mouth. Maybe that would even mean that the disc itself is a little bit warped. Then, alright, let's do a really quick set of legs, goat legs. So, I'm going to use the line brush here to give me a straight line. I'm going to duplicate it a couple of times. Shorten this bottom one. Pull down the hoof from this bottom one. The idea, if anybody's watching and I've held your attention until this point, what I'm trying to do is add a couple of legs, like that they have sprouted, and he's now walking. Then just repositioning these placeholders to get that, and okay. Line these guys up, merge them. I'm gonna isolate the leg here and just build this out quickly. So I am using a little bit of human anatomy here. This is really rough and really quick. But we'll block in more or less a thigh. So grab just the foot here. Then I'm going to take this one that I just worked on and use that for the other leg. Alright, let's, I think I'm realizing that I want to move these stalks around a bit more. So, I will delete them, and we'll just bring them in from the other sculpt. Yeah, now I can focus a bit on positioning these legs. And now I'll bring some of these stalks over, these tentacles from the other sculpt, and position them so that they're out of the way of the legs. All right. Then maybe these eye stalks. Last thing I'm gonna look into is drooping them down. Okay, yeah, and then last move, now I see where the head is without those eye stalks. We can add one more layer of tendrils popping up for texture. And I'll just swim them around the face here, coming up from that central hole. Nice. Okay. Got about 10 minutes left. I'll save this out. So we have our basic cute little flying polyp. No, excuse me. Flump. Flying polyp is a very different thing. Here's our basic flump. We have our flying flump. And you know what? Should pose these a little bit differently. So there's our flying version. And then we have our very bizarre eldritch infection. So I know I'm going to need to actually pull up some reference of some goat hooves to refine this, because I really want this to look kind of like a fawn's leg or something. I need to add a couple of spikes to the bottom of this guy. And then we'll go ahead and sign off for today. I won't bore you guys with the subsequent refinement that comes where I need to merge everything out and export it into ZBrush and reduce the polygon count and tool it. I don't think these are going to be split into separate parts, but there are just some cleanup and subsequent steps to get this ready for formatting into a file that will be 3D printable. But yeah, I'll give you guys one more last look at this this infected version of the flump. For anyone who made it this far through to the end, thanks for watching this sculpt, the flump the Flying Flump, and the Eldritch Flump. At least one of the three, hopefully all three. They're going to be part of the Classics collection, which is sort of the welcome bonus that I offer to patrons who support me on Patreon. I'm an independent artist, and I really appreciate all the support. Each month I do a new lineup of monthly horrors, usually cosmic horrors. We've got a bunch of cave cosmic horrors next month, including a proxy for Rock Toolkesh from Eberron, and a bunch of other stuff. The welcome pack includes the whole Classics collection that I've been building for the years, so that has some more classic D&D monsters. It's got Cloaker, it's got a Vegapygmy, it's got a Froghemoth, we'll have now at least one of these Polyp versions, Flump versions, excuse me. And yeah, I think that's about it. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully we'll do more of these consistently. I always say that. I really would like to make this a weekly thing. But thanks for tuning in. And again, if you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to answer you back. And that's all for now. Take care.